Hey, what is going on, Miami Dolphins fans? It's Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. Now, like we did earlier in this offseason with Xavier Howard, today we're going to discuss the different options at center that the Miami Dolphins have if we lose Connor Williams to free agency. Obviously, as you know, he is scheduled to hit free agency here this offseason. And Connor Williams, man, he's one of those guys that you cheer for. It's really hard to not just feel bad for this guy at this point in time because he comes to Miami as a free agent in 2022. And after playing 4 really damn good years at left guard in Dallas, says, you know what, I'll agree to a position change. I'll play center for you guys. And quite honestly, when it came to run blocking, when it came to pass blocking, to make that change after playing left guard for 4 years, no issues. We were all, I would say he exceeded our expectations. Was he flawless? No, wasn't flawless. You know what the issue was. Let's say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Snapping issues. Yeah, I think you probably knew where I was going to that one. So no, it wasn't flawless, but at the end of the day, man, he was getting the job done, run blocking, pass blocking. Now let's fast forward a little bit. We go to the 2023 offseason. Connor Williams wants an extension, and I get it. If you want to strike while the iron's hot, he's what, 26 at the time? Yeah, let's get this guy some coin. Sits out part of OTAs. Front office is basically like, yeah, we're going to play hardball with you a little bit. So holdout doesn't last all that much. He's basically there for all of camp. He ends up returning for training camp, goes into the season without the new deal. Well, what ends up happening? It's kind of like the writing was on the wall. Gets dinged up a couple of times early in the season, misses a couple of games here and there. Week 14 happens. Boom, another ACL injury. And it's a late season ACL injury. So now he's entering this offseason without that contract extension. And now he's going to be a free agent in a year where he's coming off yet another major knee injury. And like I said, this one happened in week 14. So the odds of him being 100% or close to it by week 1, the beginning of the season, it's no guarantee. It is far from a guarantee. So like I said, hard to not feel bad for this guy. We're going to get into the options. Before we jump into the options at center, I want to hear from you. So in the comments, let me know how you would like to see the position of center address this offseason by the Miami Dolphins in the event we lose Connor Williams to free agency. Now let's start with some of what I'm going to call the in-house options right here, because it was Liam Eichenberg that started at center when Connor Williams missed his time in 2023 due to the various injuries. Kind of like Connor Williams in a sense. Liam Eichenberg had some snapping issues as well. He kind of had his mix of good and bad play regard to actual blocking on the field, production on the field. However, let's us all agree, I think I speak for most Dolphins fans out there, we'd rather see Liam Eichenberg in a reserve role. We've had that experience. We've played him at tackle. We've played him at guard. We've played him at center. And like I said, there's been some okay moments, but more often than not, we don't feel near as comfortable as we'd like to up front when he's in that starting lineup. So yeah, a reserve role is where we want this guy in 2024. The only other option that you're seeing going on the scroll is Chasen Hines, and he was just signed last month to a reserve future contract. And another thing that I think that we can all kind of agree on, he's probably a camp body. Best case scenario, he surprises us, maybe gets one of the last final roster spots, maybe competes, makes the practice squad. So quite honestly, in regards to this option, I'm probably saying the nicest way that I don't want either of these guys starting at center for our Miami Dolphins in 2024, which leaves us with free agency, the NFL draft, or a potential trade. So let's jump into those free agent options right now. And it's funny enough, I've got Pro Football Focus's top-rated free agent centers going on the scroll right there. And Connor Williams right there is actually number 1 because he did, like I said, he did grade out pretty damn well as a run blocker, as a pass blocker. But I don't really think PFF is factoring in the injury into these rankings. So then behind him, you've got Andre James, you got Lloyd Kushenberry, you got Aaron Brewer, Tyler Biadasz, Coleman Shelton, and Evan Brown. Now, I was told of the centers that are scheduled to hit free agency, at least the ones that are starter-worthy, starter caliber, Lloyd Kushenberry is really the only one that the Miami Dolphins really have their eye on at this point in time. Now, Obviously, things can change. We're only in February, but Kushenberry has spent his 4 seasons with the Denver Broncos. He's actually been pretty damn consistent and really damn healthy along the way as well. Started every single game and didn't miss any time his first or second year. He did miss 9 games in 2022, but man, he bounced back right after that. Started all games last year in 2023. And speaking of that 2023 season, Pro Football Focus gave him a grade of 73.2 overall. Keep in mind, 50 is average. 73.2 is pretty damn good. And he was credited with just 1 sack allowed in playing over 1,000 snaps at center for the Broncos. He'll be 27 as well this upcoming NFL season, so he's got plenty left in the tank. But you know what's going to come along with that? The price tag. Pro Football Focus projects a 4-year, $57 million contract, which averages out to about a little over $14 million per season. So even if we end up with some money this offseason after some cuts, extensions, restructures, the cap projected to go up here yet this offseason, that's still a pretty hefty price tag considering our current cap situation. So let's look at some NFL draft options. Kind of like the last thing, I've got the top 5 projected centers based on NFL mock draft database going on the scroll right now. And quite honestly, I will do an entire video on centers in this year's draft later this offseason. So I'm not going to take a super deep dive right now. But of the guys that are going right now, Powers Johnson and Barton would be the 2 options Miami would likely need to spend their first round pick on if that's the guy that they're targeting. It's as of right now, it's at least boiling down that way. Frazier, Van Pran, currently projected kind of in that second round range. So if Miami ended up going another direction in the first round, we just did a mock draft. We talked about if there's a defensive lineman, if there's a cornerback, safety, whatever they would end up doing in the first round. If it's not offensive lineman, if they wanted to wait till the second round, maybe a guy like Frazier, maybe a guy like Van Pran could be a second round target. Christian Haynes, he's actually also projected in that second and third round range. Some have him as a guard actually at the next level. Some think he can play center in the NFL. Regardless, he'd at least be an option as well if Miami attempts to address the position in the draft. Now, the good thing about addressing a position like that in the draft is you're getting a super young guy on a rookie deal. And guess what we need right now? We need super young guys that are going to produce on rookie contracts. There's no getting over that. That's the good. Well, what's the bad? The bad about addressing the position in the draft is you're selecting a guy in this situation that you are hoping is a week 1 starter that's never played a down of NFL football. And you know what? If that guy turns out not to be ready for a starting role by week 1 early in the season, well, guess what you're back to? You're likely back to Liam Eichenberg being your team's starting center in the event you didn't make any moves earlier in free agency at the position. So, yeah, I do think that there's a lot of us that would be super happy if the Dolphins did take a center at number 21, or if we trade back later into the first round and take a center. I think a lot of us would be happy, but to be quite honest, that option definitely comes with plenty of risk, and you're never quite certain. Comes with plenty of uncertainty as well. The last option, like we had talked about in the beginning of the video, would be trading for a center. I don't necessarily have any potential targets in mind right now. However, it's an option. I didn't want to outright ignore the option. But as of today, Dolphins fans, those are your options. So like I said, let's hear from you. If the Dolphins let Connor Williams walk in free agency, how would you like to see the Miami Dolphins address this position this NFL offseason? Go ahead, drop your thoughts, drop your nominations in the comments. Curious to see who has got your attention. That is what I have got for today, Miami Dolphins fans. Until next time, fins up.